Today I just wanted to show you a few of my reference books. I have quite a few reference books that have been collected over the years. Before we even had internet, I only had reference books. I do have a few little pocket guides that can be carried around. These are books that I would use at home. Now, the reason I really like to use my reference books still is because if you actually have the name of the thing you're looking for, the flower or the bird, it's a lot easier and quicker to find it online. And I know with books, sometimes the photos are a bit small or they're not as clear as you would like, but once you know the name of the thing you're looking for, you can go and find lots of additional information and lots of photos online. And of course, there's always a time when you may not have access to internet, and then a guidebook is really useful. So I would always say get a guidebook for your country, and if possible a local guide, because that will really help you when you're out and about. So I have quite a few of these Collins Complete Guide to British. This is coastal wildlife, but I've got trees, I've got wildflowers, I've got animals. I think these are really useful. Now they have general contents here, and then they move on to how to use the book. They talk about the coastal area in general and how to study the coastal area, and then they move on to the actual different subjects. So we're starting with seaweeds. So I'll try and flick through. They're quite heavy books, these. I wouldn't take these out with me any further than my garden because they're quite weighty books, quite heavy. But you can see we have lots of wonderful things in here, and it just makes identifying them really easy. So when I'm out and about, I would have a pocket guide, or if possible, and I would take photos, and then I'd do some little drawings and then come home and look in my book. I do love shells. I think they're really lovely. So this is probably one of my favourites because it's got a little bit of everything in here. So that's one type of reference book that I use quite a lot. Now this one I found by accident one day. It's by Q. You may have heard me say how much I love any books by Q. The gardens are wonderful at Q. And this is a plant glossary, an illustrated dictionary of plant terms. Well, I didn't know that I even wanted this book or needed it. I just found it, and at first I was like, oh, it hasn't got any nice coloured pictures in, but that's because it's a dictionary. And this is really, it's more of a specialist reference book. You see the references in here to where they found the information. There's a lot in there. But this is really useful if you want to create any botanical art and you want everything to be perfect. What I actually use this for is for my patterns, because it's got so many shapes in here. So you can see we have all the different words, many of them I've never heard of, but it's got the meanings of them. And we have these line drawings throughout the book. So this is a book that I would just dip into when I want some information. And I find it so useful for creating patterns. It even tells you, how the leaves grow on the stems. It's really is, it may look a little bit boring to you if you're not interested in plants, but I find it fascinating. And at the back here we have grouped terms which show the different shapes. So we've got some three-dimensional shapes, we've got some line drawings, some leaves. And I say this is so useful, especially for designing patterns. I use it for Zentangle. We've got some textures in here. I just find it fascinating. And then right at the back we have some colour terms, which is also fascinating, and some actual colour swatches. So that is much more of a technical book. It is one that I would only be using at home, and this is another type of reference book that I have that's just full of beautiful photographs. I really love clouds. I know you can look up clouds in general online, but this is just a book I really like, so I've included it because you can see clouds everywhere. Wherever you look out the window you'll probably see a cloud. It's quite a difficult one to flip through because the pages are quite wide, but I will do my best here. Now why I like this one is because it actually tells you all the technical stuff about clouds. And so things that you didn't know, it obviously starts off how to use this book, which is really useful. And then it goes through the different types of cloud. Now this is really good when you are doing landscape paintings and you want to sit at home and just get some examples of clouds to practice painting. It's also very helpful. You've got some different colours here, so you can see different sky colours. Now I know you can get all this online, but this is all in one book here for me, so it's very easy for me to just open it up and find whatever I'm looking for, especially in the middle of winter when it's not very nice to go outside. So there's quite a few different cloud books. This is one I particularly liked, and I like this section, Other Clouds and Effects, because clouds are just so beautiful and so fascinating in the sky. And I think another reason I do love to use my reference books is because if you're working from your imagination, sometimes you just need a little bit of inspiration to help you. And then we've even got a little bit here on clouds and climate change. So this, oh, that's beautiful colour there. So this one's actually in association with the Met Office. So it's nice, you know, that it's, all the information is going to be correct. Very technical, I guess, for some of it. But different types. So you've got a book that's absolutely beautiful, full of information. You've got very technical, looks a little bit boring, but if you like plants, it's really fascinating. And then I have all sorts of these guides here, which are just really useful. They do have lovely photos, but as I've said before, I use these as a reference and I can go online and get some larger photos. So for me, my reference books are important, and I think to make the most of them, you can use them on their own, but you can also use them with the internet and get lots of big pictures and lots more information. So don't dismiss a reference book as being boring. It's really useful to have some on your shelf, even if it's just one or two on your favourite subject.